Welcome to the north coast of Cornwall. It's good to be back here on a beautiful summer's day. Well, it certainly feels like it. It's mid-May now and things are certainly heating up, and it's that time of the year where the bass fishing picks up. That's why I'm on the north coast here with the SIB, just waiting for the water to creep up just enough for me to drop that engine. I know once the water level reaches the concrete there, I've got enough to get out. Caught it just right, just enough water to get out, and yeah, we'll see what it's like out there. A little bit of a breeze, but it looks fairly calm. There's not much swell, so that's good. I don't like swell on this boat. It doesn't handle it very well. So yeah, I'm going to stop messing around now and crack on with this. Let's get out of here and let's get onto the fishing grounds. Quarter throttle, effortless. Alright, let's just talk about the plan for today. So I've just come across the bay. I launched over there on the far side and I spent about 15 minutes steaming over here, and the reason why I'm fishing over here is because of that big lump of rock there. Now we're fishing the flooding tide, and essentially what's going to happen is all of the water in this bay is all going to get pushed through that funnel there, that funnel that's created between that island and the headland here, and in between is fairly reefy ground. And what's going to happen, the theory is anyway, is that the bass are going to sit on the edges of that funnel, ambushing all of the bait fish that are getting pushed through, that are holding in the bay, that are going to end up on the other side. Now look at this here, we've actually got a shallow bit of rock just there, which is perfect. That's exactly where I want to be to start to find the fish. I'm going to troll along in close here all the way to the funnel there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this fish finder here. This is a Garmin Striker 9. I'm going to use the fish finder to see where the fish are holding up, because the tide has already started flooding. If we see fish on the fish finder here, then that is probably where they're going to be holding up for a lot of this incoming tide. So what I'll do is I'll troll along, and I'm going to troll with the tide. That's quite important to make it look natural. You have to troll with the tide, okay? And all I'm doing, the engine's just in, the outboard is just in tick over right now. That's all it is, just in tick over. It's just enough to keep me moving forwards, you know, under my own propulsion, instead of getting pushed by the tide, because that is really what you want for trolling, just a little bit of a head speed. And I'm actually going to be using a soft plastic. You don't see too many people trolling with soft plastics, but they work really well. I mean, this is a Fish Crazy Paddle Tail in the smaller size, but with a 25 gram head, and that's just going to be enough to get down there. From my experience, that will actually dive to 3 meters. You wouldn't think it being such a small lure without a diving bait to keep it down, but it will actually go to 3 meters. So we're just about clear of that rock back there now, and all I do is just give it a cast, flick the bail across, and then, like I said, that's in tick over, so I don't really need to be hands-on with that. I just leave it as it is, and I'm watching the fish finder display here, because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for fish arches. Now I don't see any on there at the moment. That is just reef that are over. Doesn't mean that there's not fish down there, it just means that the fish finder isn't picking them up at the moment. But as we go over the reef, I'm looking out for that all the time, because one, I'll expect to get a bite when I reckon my lure's over that area. Often you'll get the bites when you see the fish there and your lure's brought over it, but it also is somewhere for me to come back to later on. If I'm not picking up fish on the troll, then what I'll do is I'll come back to wherever it is that I've seen the fish holding, and then I'll fish that more on a sort of traditional drift style fishing. So that's what we're going to do, fish the flood. Conditions might get a little bit, I don't know, we've got an offshore breeze. It's not too bad at the moment, but as that tide picks up, that funnel effect could create some confused water in this narrow gap here. If you look at the sounder, or what was there, it's kind of gone now. You can just catch the edge of it. There we go, it's back now. That there is probably fish. The way it's arching like that, that's probably fish. And I'd put money on it being bass as well. And what's interesting about that is they're holding really close to the bottom there. It almost looks like the actual reef itself, but those arches, it's fairly distinct that is actually fish. So I'm putting a mental marker there that I've gone over that big rock there, because you see how it came up on the sand all of a sudden, and there is fish holding on that. So I'll do a couple more trolls and I'll go over that same patch, try and get those fish, and if not, then I'll start fishing it on the drift. So with this tide that I was talking about, we've got a real confused sea here. You can see that is actually quite a bit of movement, even though it's flat calm in the bay, where this tide's pushed all the water up onto the reef. It creates what I would call a confused sea state. We've got a bit of wind against tide as well, so that doesn't help. But yeah, and the thing that I wanted to point out here is, if you're on a flat hold SIB like this, which most people wouldn't have, but if you do have, then it's really important to measure your use of throttle. Now ideally you want to keep the bow up as high as possible like this, so that you don't plow into the waves. See how I'm applying just enough throttle to keep the bow up, but if you put any more, then it will push it down and you'll start going on the plane, which you don't want. Just keep it nice and high, and always watching out. If you do see a bigger wave coming up approaching you, then ease right off the throttle, and that's to stop you from stuffing the bow into the wave. But I'm just keeping it up high right now. I don't need to go flying through this. I'll get through it. I just got to take it steady. But there are limitations of a boat like this, and you see now that it's easing off, so I can start picking up my speed. All right, I might put you on the head mount in a minute, but just to show you before I do, so I'll stop trolling because I know where the fish are now, and I'm going to drift along that route where I've seen them on the sounder. And I've got this cool box here. Sorry about the sun there, guys. A bit great footage, but I've got this cool box that I'm sat up on. I tell you what, it's brilliant for doing this when you're on the drift. A little bit of height, something nice and solid to sit on. It's much nicer posture than being sat on the bench seat. So just letting the tide and wind push us across now, pushing us through the gap. And there is quite a bit of tide now. It's really racing through nice and quick, and I'm just pulling the lure through the gap. You know, I am retrieving it, but really slowly actually. Even though I'm spinning the handle quite a bit, I'm working the tip of the rod quite a bit more than I'm using the reel, giving it that, you know, sort of like a distressed sand eel. That's what I want it to look like, coming up on a huge patch of fish here, either that or a big rock. I think it's fish. Right, into a fish on the drift here. I think it could be another pollock actually, by the way it's fighting. But I'm seeing a lot more fish marking on the sounder now, which is, you know, that's promising. I think they're sort of pushing in now, holding here with the tide a bit. Is it a bass or is it? It's fighting a bit more bassy now, yeah. I think it's a small bass, it is. Just a little one to start the day off. That's alright. Just something to work up from. Small schoolie bass on the drift. Feisty as hell. Don't really want these in the boat any longer than they need to be, because they will do a lot of damage. Bass to an inflatable boat like this is actually one of the most dangerous things you can do, really, is bring a spiny fish like a bass on board, because if you drop it, chances are it's going to put a hole in the air deck. So when you're handling bass on an inflatable boat, seriously take care. And I speak from experience when I say they really do mess up air decks. So I'm just drifting across the gap now. Here we are, right in the middle of it. Oh, and we got a fish on. Fish on. Better fish as well, this. Yeah, better fish. That was just as I was letting it sink, the lure. The Much better fish this. He's not quite running yet because he's coming towards me with the tide, but I'm sure when he gets close to the boat he'll take off a bit. This is awesome. This is. I got the whole place to myself, and the fish are coming on the feed now. Brilliant. And I'm sorry about the sun. It's really out of my control on a little boat like this, the angle that I film at. What have we got here? Not a bad fish, this one, guys. Whoa! Not a bad fish. He's woken up now because he's seen the boat and he knows that there's something up. I'm just going to play him in slowly because he's lip hooks. This is a decent bass. This is what I come out here for. Oh, he's going under. He's going under. Get him up. That's a better bass there. That's up in the 50 centimetre, that is. Oh, I really don't know how good this video is, but hey, beauty. That is. I'll get a quick measure on him. Yeah, he's a smudge over 50 there. Beautiful fish. Put up a good fight, that. So that's what I come out here for, really. This sort of size. This is what I was hoping for today. That is a nice bass. I'll slip that one back. All right, now I know that fishing on the drift is the order of the day. Actually, I found where the fish are. It was good to troll earlier, but now I'm just going to start my drift exactly what I did a minute ago, come all the way across there because there was a few fish on that one. All right, see how close I'm getting to the shore? Well, it's probably only about a metre or two deep here. You're almost within casting range, but that's fine. It's just where I'm starting the drift because we're going to go across. Actually, the wind's doing me quite a favour here. For once, it's pushing me out, and with the tide I'm covering the whole width of this in one drift, which is nice. I'm just working the front of these rocks here, you know, just working on the sort of the deeper side. There'll be a bass lurking, just waiting. And I'm not using the fish finder anymore because it's not really going to do me any favours now. Now I know the drift that I want to be on for the fish. It's not really doing much because I'm not fishing vertically, so it doesn't really matter what's beneath me. Always keeping a lookout for any fish feeding up on the surface. This is where we're getting into the nicer bit of water here. Just casting it out across tide. I don't want to be going that way because then I'll be working it against the tide, and I don't really want to fish it that way. The nicer ground, if you like, is all across in there. But it seems to be when I'm getting about halfway along the drift, that is when a lot of the fish are coming on. So they're sort of a little bit further out than what I am right now, but it looks really nice in there with all that shallow ground. You know, it's funny, you get a boat thinking, oh, I can push out into deeper water now and stuff, but a lot of the time you find yourself, especially bass fishing, you know, really hugging close to the shore. Hooked into something here that really hit it hard. I'm not sure, it could be a decent fish that's just not woken up yet. Let's see, is he gonna go? Oh no, it's a small pollock, that's all. Funny that, because it hit it really hard. But I thought, oh, this could be a decent fish actually, but no, just a little pollock. Quite a few that size at the moment, quite a few of them around, but can be a good bit of fun. When they start getting to £3, they fight well. Yeah, this is a better fish here again, pulling against the tide, always a good sign. There it is up on the surface. It's really not the most exciting way of fighting a bass like this, but it's really effective. I mean, I'm getting a fish adrift here, if not more, if not two fish adrift. So yeah, there we go, a little bit bigger. He fought well actually, I'll give him that. He fought all the way from the start. So see how I'm flicking the bail across, just giving that slack line, giving it a chance to sink. You know, if you've got a tight line, it's not really sinking, it's getting dragged through the water. And I have found it is really important to fish close to the bottom. I mean, I could see it on the sounder, I could see the fish were holding really close on the bottom. And a lot of these fish are coming on the drop. You know, half the time I'm not even winding in. Yeah, there's a risk of getting snagged like this, but there we go. Yes! Solid hit that. On the drop as well. Solid hit. And I'm fishing with a fairly stiff rod here, but light line. That light line is really important as well, because it allows it to sink much quicker. It's so funny how they just go crazy when they get to the boat. That's such cool looking fish though in the water, bass are. I could do this all day, even though they're not big fish. I'm trying for one over 60 centimeters for the UK Bass Lure Fishing League, and obviously these are nowhere near that, but I can still catch them all day. Yeah, this is definitely a better fish here. It's pulling the boat towards it. Definitely bigger than the last couple I've had. Just not running yet. Staying high in the water, but yeah, it's a good feeling when you got a fish on a lure and it's pulling the boat around, you know. Mad, isn't it? What is this? Oh, he wants to dig. He wants to dig. I can see it. It looks bassy. There's a load of them following it as well. So many fish around here right now, and those fins are just beautiful. They got a nice blue tinge to them. He's not even done yet. They're fighting really hard actually. See, I thought this was a bigger bass. Like it's probably a 42 centimeter fish this, but maybe just under. It's just such a glorious evening to be out fishing here. We're on slack tide now. It's not going in either direction. It's not going up the channel or out the channel. It's just completely slack. I'm just moving with the wind, and typically this is when the fishing can really slow down for just a short period. And what I might do is I might tie on a bigger crazy paddle tail, troll around for a little bit and get ready in anticipation for the start of the ebbing tide. In my experience, this particular spot does fish better on the ebb. We're in again on the troll this time, and if you look at the sounder, that's actually loads of bass. I don't know if you can see it. Loads of bass down there. Just trolling a bigger lure now whilst the tide's slack. I'm just finding the fish like that, covering a bit more ground. Not a bad bass this one. That's another 50 centimeter chunky bass as well, really chunky. Nicely hooked in the corner. They never make it easy, do they? Because I'm trying to just do that. Once I got my thumb in its mouth, control it really well. See how hard that was in there then. Really in there. And that's the 160. I really like that size in khaki. And yeah, that's a nice bass there. Lovely fish. That's the sort of ones that I'm after, really, that size. And there's loads. Look on the sounder, there's been loads of them down there. It is useful having a fish finder sometimes. I mean, I like it when I'm on the troll because I can see what I'm going over. That is really nice. So I'm just going to put that lure out there, quite a ways from where I'm seeing the fish, but I'm going to head into shore now, so I'm going to pull it right past them. And you might think, oh, why don't you just drop it down? Well, in my experience, dropping it on them isn't really the way to go about it. They're never really that interested if you just drop it right on them. Not in this sort of depth anyway. Maybe if we were a bit deeper, it's far more natural to have it trolled across them, and then they'll come up from the bottom, and there'll usually be a couple of them competing for it. Just had the lads from the RLI come out. Apparently somebody called in something suspicious floating in the area, so hopefully everything's all right. I mean, I'm obviously fine here, but yeah, nice for them to check up on me, and well, hopefully they get to enjoy this lovely evening like I am. Good bunch of people, those, the RLI. Wouldn't feel nearly as safe doing what I do without them. And there we go, back at the slipway after what has been a fantastic evening session on the North Coast Bass. Hopefully you found it interesting. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about how I go about approaching that sort of mark and that sort of tidal race, and fishing it nice and light with soft plastics. It was quite a productive session. Plenty of fish in the sort of high 40s, low 50s. Didn't quite get to the 60s. That's what I'm hoping for, but it's just something to try for next time. And I'm going to be doing a lot more of this now that the weather's warmed up out on the SIB. It is so much fun to be out in nice weather again. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please show some support, leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. You know the gist. It all really helps, keeps me motivated, making more videos. And of course there will be more soon. If you want to see something a bit different to the lure fishing, just let me know and I'll put something together. But yeah, all right guys, cheers all.